This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. The U.S. is considering banning Chinese connected vehicles, or at least imposing restrictions on them. Back in February, the Biden administration launched an investigation into whether Chinese vehicles pose a national security risk. The Commerce Department is currently going through public comments related to that probe, and the Commerce Secretary says it could lead to a ban of Chinese connected vehicles or restrictions. The White House is concerned about all the data and information these vehicles and their cameras and sensors collect on Americans and the U.S. infrastructure. But automakers aren't completely on board with a ban or restrictions. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation, a lobbying group that represents most of the major automakers in the U.S., says companies are taking steps to mitigate the risks associated with using Chinese-designed systems. It also says that these systems or parts of them can't easily be swapped out with another supplier. The South Korean government also voiced concerns that a ban could, quote, put significant burdens on the industry. As of now, there's no timeline on when a decision will be made. Toyota might have a hybrid problem in China. The automaker's willingness to stick to a more methodical approach to electrification has paid off really well as EV demand has slowed and sales of hybrids have picked up. But in China, hybrids don't qualify for a green license and they get less sales subsidies than BEVs or PHEVs. What's more, the plug-in hybrids Toyota does offer in China haven't had much sales success according to Car News China. So now reports say Toyota will come out with 2 or 3 new models in China over the next 2 to 3 years that are based on a plug-in hybrid platform from BYD. The setup combines a 1.5-liter turbocharged engine with several different battery sizes that offer all the way up to 200 kilometers or 124 miles of range on the Chinese cycle, as well as electric motors that drive both the front and or rear wheels. Toyota already has an EV joint venture with BYD, so it was probably comfortable expanding its partnership into PHEVs as well. And speaking of BYD, it's thinking about expanding even more into Europe and says it could be a leader there by the end of the decade. Late last year, it announced it would build an EV plant in Hungary, and now it says it's considering a second plant in Europe by 2025. It didn't say where it's looking to build it, but BYD will have a few interested countries. Both France and Italy have said they would welcome BYD. While officials, including the president of the European Commission, who as recently as yesterday said, the EU needs to take steps to prevent Chinese EV imports from flooding the market. But the EU seems more than happy to let Chinese automakers build plants in the region because of all the jobs they'll bring. And that's got to be one of the reasons why BYD is so confident it can become an EV leader in Europe by 2030. Ford isn't just walking back its EV plans in the US, it's also doing the same in Europe. 3 years ago, it said it would go all electric in the region by the end of the decade, but the company's head of passenger cars in Europe says it will offer hybrids and plug-in hybrids after then, as long as it sees strong enough demand for them. Ford is making the EV switch in Europe a little bit faster than the US. It already has the E-Transit, Mach-E, and Lightning on sale there, just like the US. But it also has the electric Transit Custom. It's launching the Explorer EV. The Puma EV comes out later this year, and it will introduce an all-new electric in June. However, hybrids will help Ford manage its way to 100% electrification.
Intrepid's NeoVi Pi, allowing automotive engineers to interface, capture, and monitor vehicle data using Raspberry Pi. As a matter of fact, it's the automotive industry's first robust platform for Raspberry Pi, featuring Intrepid CAN-FD technology and Raspberry Pi Compute Module. The NeoVi Pi is designed for automotive environments, allowing use with relative power ranges and applications. In addition, the NeoVi Pi enables you to use the Raspberry Pi for compute while avoiding additional development to adapt to network environments. That makes the NeoVi Pi powerful enough to solve your vehicle network problems, yet small enough to fit in your backpack. One of many Intrepid tools used for developing zonal architecture and software-defined vehicles.
Chevrolet is axing the last remaining sedan in its U.S. lineup. Yesterday, General Motors announced that it's ending production of the Chevy Malibu later this year, which is built at its Fairfax plant in Kansas. The automaker is investing $390 million to retool that plant to build the next-gen Chevy Bolt. Fairfax also builds the Cadillac XT4, which will be idled in early 2025 for upgrades so it can resume production of both the XT4 and the Bolt in late 2025. Last year, Chevy sold 130,000 Malibus, which was up 14%. But through the first quarter of this year, sales of the sedan are down 12.5%. If you haven't already taken notice, India is quickly becoming an automotive hotspot. There's been a lot of announcements and expansion recently, and now Honda's joining the party. But instead of going after the four-wheeled market, it just opened a new R&D facility in India to cut carbon emissions of motorcycles, which is still one of the most popular forms of transportation in the country. Honda will also work on incorporating software and other connected services into the motorcycles and its power products. Stellantis is planning to offer fuel cell-powered Ram heavy-duty pickups in the U.S. and Europe. The head of the automaker's fuel cell program says a hydrogen-powered Ram 5500 for North America will be made in Mexico, and the one for Europe has already started low-volume production in Poland. Stellantis is aiming to sell 100,000 a year globally by the end of the decade, and it believes the fuel cell-powered trucks will gradually replace its diesel lineup. Both Aston Martin and Ferrari are coming out with new V12 models, but another high-end brand is lopping cylinders off its top engine choice. Bentley announced it's about to retire its 6-liter W12 engine and that it will also end production of models with its 4-liter twin-turbo V8 for the UK, Europe, and the Middle East. The 12-cylinder, and likely some of those twin-turbo V8s, are being replaced by a new plug-in hybrid V8 that makes about 740 horsepower and offers up to 80 kilometers or 50 miles of all-electric range. There's not a lot of detail right now, but Bentley says it will also be the most dynamic, most responsive, and most efficient system in its history. Genesis is showing off a new accessory for dog owners that allows them to pamper their furry friends. It's a module that fits into the trunk of an electrified GV70 and features a Genesis-branded heated dog cushion, a built-in shower, a hair dryer, a Bluetooth audio system, a pull-out ramp, and even 230-volt sockets. Genesis also created a personalized dog collar and safety harness to keep the dog safe while the car is being driven. As of now, Genesis doesn't have a plan to sell the dog accessory, but it will show it off to the public at several of its studios in the UK. That brings us to the end of today's show, but don't forget to tune in to Autoline After Hours at 3 p.m. Eastern Time today, because this ought to be a good one. After Hours co-founder and the auto extremist himself, Peter DiLorenzo, is back, and we'll be recreating his brand image meter, which is Peter's no-holds-barred assessment of most of the brands currently doing business in the auto industry. Tanya Gazdick from Media Post will also be on the show, so don't miss out.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering boost your game. Tejan Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility. And by ZF.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Tejan Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
Keeping your heart racing in and out of the gym. That's what really matters. Bridgestone Potenza Sport AS tires with a 50,000-mile limited warranty.